Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. I have a full-size piece of this pre-printed aged foliage stationery paper here. It's a matte finish and it comes in 8 different patterns with 8 different patterns on the back side. One side is ruled, the other side is not, but it has a different pattern altogether, so it's really 16 different patterns in this pack of paper, which is pretty cool, and it's nice and inexpensive and so far fun to stamp on. So I'm going to do a format that I call a horizon card. Okay, so if I'm doing something with a piece, like a half-page piece of, or whatever size piece of paper, and I'm mirroring it down here with a piece of mirrored gold, usually gold or silver, reflective cardstock. I call that a reflection card, but if I'm just doing something where it doesn't have to be a full page piece like this, you can do 2 different types of papers, but this foliage paper I see as like a little overhang and something in the foreground. And then I stamp something in here. This area down here represents things that are a little bit more surface oriented, and from here up, this would be like, I don't know, like a horizon line or something like that. You can do another taller horizon line in here, but this in here would represent sky or things that are more kind of vertical within this scenario here. I was looking at this paper here too. I could just do some sort of imagery on the other side right here and make this like a little pond or something like that. It's not going to be reflective of what's going on up here, but somewhat reflective because there's a lot of textures like this that are similar from right here to right here because I've just folded it in half. So you can do something like that. And then you can put water elements down here or something like that. I'm going to make this down here just some ground with a path leading up to a little cabin right here. I thought this would be a perfect little place for a cabin. It's nicely framed off like this. And let's see how it goes here. I'm going to try to incorporate some of these color, whatever the color scheme into the media that I end up coloring my stamped objects with. Okay, let's see how it goes, okay? Now, I haven't tried this yet, so, you know, we'll see how it goes. I've done these horizon cards before, though, and they're pretty fun to do. I really like the 3-dimensional type of I don't know, pseudo 3-dimensional type of appearance of these reflection cards and these horizon cards. You're taking advantage of the existing card, you know, card base of how a card folds. So this is going to be the interior of a card, you know, in theory. So someone's opening it up and it's like a little kind of pop-up kind of idea. Hello, Mediocre Arts and Crafts. How are you? Hello, Bug. Hello, G's 3719 Linda. Good to see you. Hello, Sharita. All right, I've done a little bit of prep work on this scenario here because I had to grab a bunch of images and break them out here. Okay, so I thought this one right here has this little bit of an opening right here. So I thought, man, that could be like this little kind of path or, you know, road or something like this. If I had all foliage in here, I probably wouldn't do this road going right here because it would be like a dead end or something like that. But there was just enough of this opening right here where I thought I could kind of utilize that for this scenario. The road probably isn't going to be in perfect perspective here for this cabin, but I just said, who cares? You know, it's like a rustic road in the woods type of thing. Countryside. Hold down when making your impressions because you're stamping and trying to transfer and penetrate printer inks. Okay, it's matte, you know, in terms of the finish, but it's still going to be coated. As I say that, I'm kind of, you know, I'm saying that for myself as well. So sometimes I forget, or sometimes I get into the 10th impression that I'm making on this paper and I get kind of impatient. I stamp it and I lift up and it's like, I don't know, 20% lighter than, yeah, I don't know, whatever that I preferred, you know, you just kind of go with it. But You know, remember that. Okay, I think right here, just to emphasize this whole idea that in theory, the objects from here up are kind of a little bit more of a vertical type of image, trees, cabin, fence, mountains, etc. I thought I would thought I would put this fence right up here. Now, I guess you can put it down here, okay? And I think that would be fine. If you did it down here, I'd do a little bit of a larger one, you know. I mean, it would look something like this down here. And I think that would look pretty good, but we'll keep to this kind of, you know, flatter and taller type of convention here. All right, so I thought I would put this right about here, coming in from the side. I'm probably going to stamp over a little bit of this overhang right here, but it's not going over too much there. And that's fairly dark. I wouldn't want to stamp this over here, you know, like if this foliage was down here, I wouldn't want like a black fence going right through those lighter flowers, so we're not going to do that. Hello, Cynthia. Hello, Bonnie. Good to see you. You'll have to remind me about all of those names with those codes there. I have a very feeble memory. Not recently, but back when I started Stampscapes, it was just like I ran out of hard drive space or something like that, with too many things to remember. All right, let's see. But good to see everyone. I hope you all had a great week. All right, now I thought I would put this cabin right around here, so it's like the road's kind of going, in theory, like, you know, right in front of the house or something like that. And I thought I would nestle this kind of on the, you know, right of center area in here. We have this fence here, so I think right down here, after I ink it up, let's do that. You could just stamp it as is, but I'm going to take and right there to right there. That's where I'm going to be covering up that fence or stamp. I want it behind the fence, okay? So right in this area right in here, I'm going to remove some of that ink right there. You don't want it removed completely, but I'll do about, I'm guessing 80% or something like that. So that hopefully that fence will look like it's in front of the cabin. I hope I didn't remove like too much ink, you know, where it's, you know, the cabin doesn't stamp out at all. But if that happens, that's fine, because you can fill it in with other things too. Okay, so it's like that right in there. See, I like doing things with that white pigment ink anyways, so that gives me a little bit of a head start. So that's how I separate a near object from a farther object like that, while still retaining the form, albeit lighter. But that looks like it's in front of that, instead of that being the same value as the fence. You'd lose the fence kind of in all those forms right there if it was that dark right down there. So you just take off some ink. Now, how much you take off, I don't know. It kind of depends on, like, if I was stamping this on top of like a glossy cardstock, I'd probably have to remove a little bit more ink, or like an absorbent matte cardstock too, something like that. I say the glossy one a little bit more because the glossy one, it retains more of the ink on the surface of the paper, so you'd stamp out darker images. These are reasonably dark right here, but it's kind of like a 95% gray, I guess. Even like right there, it looks pretty dark right there, but it's, you know, it's far from 100%. Let's see here. Yeah, Cynthia, when I was looking through these, I thought there was enough space in them, where, we can really do, I think, a pretty decent horizon card in them. So yeah, so you get this right here as like a nice foreground depth. So already, I mean, there's a decent amount of depth, I think, within the scene. So we have this fence coming in this way. I thought I would do one of the smaller fences in the distance like that. But I also want something right here. I want like something to emphasize the vertical nature of this section of the card. So easiest things like for those types of things are trees, I don't know, other rocks. Let's see, something like that would be too tall. I think that would be down here. Let's see at this. That's a pretty good size right there. Maybe it'd go up a little bit higher like that. Let me see, I'm not covering up anything too interesting on this side, am I? Something like that, maybe. Oh, let me see, that road would be going around this way, wouldn't it? All right, here's what we're going to do here. We're going to create a little bit of a ridge right here, I think. And then, in theory, that roadway will be going in back of this little ridge right here. Some grass. Okay, so we're going to do this right here. So sedge filler pretty much can answer a lot of like grassy style surface answers for us anytime we need to fill something in. So we'll go like this. Should I wipe off a little? Let me wipe off a little bit off the edges here. So you see that? So I'm going to bend that around this way. And I'm going up into that vertical section. Like about like that right there, okay. And then the road will be in back of that in theory. And then let's do another almost horizon line right here. Okay, so most of these live streams are not planned scenes, everyone. Okay, so there's another little ridge right back in here. That road goes behind there, right in there, And then we'll fill this area out a little bit more and integrate, things like this road in here. I'm always kind of questioning which way to go with this. Let me see. Let me just do it like that. You really want to go vertical, but I'll merge that in a little bit. And this area is going to get all filled in with stuff too, so don't worry about the, or observe the clunkiness of it, this like this, and it's going this way and everything like that. I'm just getting some texturing in there, kind of to build the foundation. It's like putting ground cover down. Now you're going to put in a bunch of objects in there. Okay, so this is what this is looking like right now, okay? And then, let's see, let's fill in with some additional trees in here. Let's go with, I thought I was almost sure I was going to do this, but it's a little bit too big, because if I put this leafless tree, then I can put some green leaves on it and then put some of these purple, like pink little blossoms on there, which I don't know, I could still do that. It's a little bit large though. Yeah, I think I had that smaller one around here somewhere, but I don't know. These would look really good in here too. Um, let's do this here. Oh, let's do this one right here again. Like that. Okay, now see this right here? I'm going to plant it right on this right here. See that? How it kind of, it goes right along that slope right there? Yeah. And this middle tree right here is kind of a deciduous tree amongst, in between the, what are evergreens. So we can put some pink into that form, I think. Hello, Sherry. How are you? Janet, happy Friday. I may have to rewatch. I don't fully understand Horizons and Perspective. Basically, in these types of cards, the reflection or horizon cards, you're just taking advantage of this. So you can just imagine this as your flat ground, and anything up here is kind of a little bit more vertical. Now you can say these are, three-dimensional too, and they're going up 4 feet in the air or something like that. But just in general, you don't put like big tree trunks in this lower section. In the reflection or horizon cards. That's if you want to emphasize this whole kind of idea of height right here. Okay, like that. So we're taking advantage of this right here. So if you're looking at a lake from the side, the pond or something like that is going to be right here. And then you have everything kind of that's taller than that in this section. All right. So I don't know. I guess everything's by perspective, whatever, the perception's by perspective. So, if I was doing Mount Everest or something like that, then maybe I do have some, whatever, 4,000 foot, peaks down below or something like that. But just in general, I usually do things like, I don't know, stuff. Maybe I think of things that are maybe 4 feet high or something in this lower section. Or I don't know, 2 feet or something like that. And then anything taller, I put in this upper section. I don't, that's just again, it just depends on what your main subject matter is going to be. And I've seen people do it where in reflection cards, they're doing something like this down here, but then they have a lake, but it really kind of starts up there. Their shoreline is up here, where you get a little bit of the water going like this, and then it's going vertical like that. But I've seen that, and it looks pretty cool. It makes it look like, sometimes it makes it look like there's a lake in the background, and then there's like another body of water, closer to us or something like that. But, just in general, just, stick more to my rules. But the biggest thing is, if you ever want to test something out, what you do is I kind of hold things up, right next to it, and I make it visual. Or if you have those things, where people are stamping on acetate or something like that, kind of with stays on ink or something like that for certain images. You wouldn't do that for all your images, but certain ones you can kind of hold it up there and see how it's going to look. But if you're doing these cards, this is what I always do all the time. As I'm doing this, every few kind of impressions, I'm kind of looking at it like this and seeing how it is, how it's kind of coming about with every 2 or 3 impressions, especially if it's kind of taller ones like this. So you see like this. So you look at this right here, it's on the ground like that. And then see right here, you get that height right there. So it's a little bit of a, it's already looking a little bit pop-up-ish, like a pop-up book or something like that, without having to do anything really kind of three-dimensional in technique. You don't have like pop-up dots or things that are having to kind of spring up like that, which I love. That's why I like doing these ones, is because I love, the look of those three-dimensional pop-up books, if you ever go to like a bookstore, as a kid or as an adult, and if you're looking through the books, you're always kind of wanting to fool around with those ones, those pop-up books. You always want to see what kind of happens in them or with them or how they work. Back when, back when there used to be like bookstores. Don't you guys miss like I don't know, whatever your favorite kind of retail store used to be, stamp stores, as far as like our industry goes. In the Facebook group, Rubber Stamp History, that I formed, I don't know, not too long ago. But I was hoping to get people to, if they had like photos or stuff like that of past classes or conventions or things like that, they would post it. But I don't know, people were talking about all of the conventions that there used to be, like in 2003 even, or something like that. And I think she mentioned something like there were, I don't know, whatever, 60 or I don't know, however many conventions. And that just brought up the conversation of, we had these stores around, you must go into the stores, or there were stores, how many, a certain number of stores in whatever, a certain area, Portland area or San Diego or something like that. Okay, so I've added some of those textures right here and right in here. Okay, so it's just with the tiny rocks small. But see this right down here, what you do is we had this big open space. Now it's a lot more apparent when you're stamping on just like a white piece of paper, but we already have the texturing of this paper in here. So it kind of brought that out a little bit. But this little texturing in here with these rocks, and you notice how I'm doing it darker, but also the secondary impressions right around in here where it's a little bit lighter. And then I brought it into my shaded areas, like around in here. Shaded meaning like at the base of the trees or something like that. But then you can also see where I've brought it a little bit right up in here. So you have a little bit of continuity between this pathway kind of going around this way, and then you got that texture going up that way, okay? I'll try to emphasize this a little bit. I'll try to illuminate this pathway right here, and I'll try to leave this a little bit lighter right there, so you go like that and right up into that area right in here. And we have some space right up in here, but I'll decide if I want to do something or not. You can add other trees in here if you want to. I think that's enough right there. I don't think I want to fill this in too much. Yeah, I think that would be a little bit too much. We already have this big swag right here. I think that would be kind of blocking that off. Although we could block it off where this kind of fence like just abruptly ends. I could draw that in too. But let's just go with that. Right up here, if I leave it open too, I kind of leave it open for like a quote stamp if I want to. This area does need something else though, doesn't it? But I was thinking about, like, I think this is going to be too big, and it's also kind of vertical like that. I don't know if I'd want it, like a deer laying on its side. There, you can put something like this right in here. We'll figure it out. Let's start rendering this though. All right. Let's see. Let's bring in some green tones, about like so. This doesn't, I'm looking at this paper right here. It doesn't really have any kind of brownish tones, but I might add that in here because when I just add only green, it kind of looks weird. That's on any kind of color paper. I always have to have it a little bit more earthy. This is in here. Those pink tones. I don't know. I should have like a violet tone that's lighter than this, but I don't see it. My favorite color as a kid was purple, so maybe I used it up as an adult too or something like that. I don't know. Not that there's purple in here, but it's kind of got that, that magenta tone. So it's like these colors are kind of in the spirit of this right in here, okay? So that's the kind of color scheme that I end up utilizing in here, unless I want to go for some kind of contrasting object to bring emphasis to it. You can kind of, you can play around with complementary colors in certain color schemes. I kind of go for more harmony though, usually. So I usually, if I do any kind of other type of color, it's usually real subtle. But maybe it'd be just, if you use only the ones that are in there, maybe it's too much of the same thing though. So you can kind of, evaluate that as you go. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, the in-person shopping experience. It's not as available these days, is it? I think I was talking with someone. I don't know. It comes up occasionally. Okay, I'm using a little bit of brown just as that base coat. And I'm kind of adding it in the areas where I think there'll be, kind of the deepest shadows in here. I do think a little bit of warmth in here will be good. These colors up here of the color scheme of the paper, it's a little bit more neutral. I wouldn't say it's like cold or warm to me. I guess if I was to classify, I guess it would be a little bit more on the cooler end, right? Because that green certainly is not like a warm green in here. It's more of a grayish green. Everything's kind of subtle in here because, this paper, it's stationary, so, you're writing on it or something like that. So they don't want to bring so much emphasis to the paper itself. It's supposed to be on, the letter or the content of it, right? Or whatever. You can run it through your printer. So a little bit of brown on the cabin right here. This is kind of more of a snowy cabin in theory, so I'm going to add a little bit of brownish tinge up top. But we'll kind of vary the tone of it so you go a little bit darker on one side and lighter on the other. Okay. On this wall right here, on those logs, I'll color that in. And the darker you make your cabin vertical sides the walls, the lighter the light will seem. So that's kind of this area inside that's supposed to be kind of like interior lit. So I've left it light in the drawing. So the darker I make that, maybe that'll look a little bit lighter, which will be fun. It's kind of, when you have this interior lit structure, it kind of compels you to go, towards it. It's inviting, unless it's like the, like the scene from like Psycho, where there's like a figure in the window, this backlit figure. All right, let's bring some tone in here too. We'll bring a little bit of this brownish tone. I'm going really light because I want this pathway to be illuminated, and kind of lit up too. Not lit up too, but I don't know. Lighter too. And again, that kind of creates this little bit more of an inviting kind of space. Anyone watching holiday movies yet? We have a bunch of those streaming services, or just the free ones. So I tend to go through like every Christmas Carol version that's out there. There was this one that was even from like, I don't know, 1930 something. I watched a little bit of that, but it's like, you know, I couldn't watch that one. The production value on that one was just too bad. All right, this is a different tone of brown. It's a little bit, yeah, it's about the same value, but it has a little bit of a different, it's more of a neutral, I guess. So adding that in here, and also I'm coloring right here. And I'm trying not to make the background so dark again that you can't see the silhouette of this fence right here. That's the whole idea of kind of, you know, blotting off some of that ink. You see this fence right in here, and you can start going a little bit, you know, darker with that if you want to have that kind of sit into the scene. Then what you do is where those objects kind of make contact with the surface down here, here's a fence post like that. So what I do is I kind of add tone at the base of it like this. And then it goes, here's the shadow starts as dark as the fence post, or it could be like a tree trunk. And then what I do is I bring this transitioning tone so it's darker right here. Here's the bottom of the fence post. And then you have the shadow go like this. And then you just have it kind of, I mean, you can have it real directional if you want it really dramatic, but I just usually have it like this. And then, so it goes from darker to lighter, that, you know, out that way. And then from this way down, it goes from darker to lighter like that. Okay, so, and that's how I feel these fence posts kind of look like it's sitting into the scene a little bit more. And then I'll follow up with black as well. So let's do this over here too. So I'll go like this. The farther away, kind of, you don't make it as tall, but you can do it out to the sides. This is why I do just about everything. It's tombstones for Halloween scenes. Yeah, a lot of trees. See that? It just kind of makes these objects look like you're sitting into the scene so much more. Okay, let's see here. This, okay, see where this fence kind of, you know, goes right here. This is like a little grassy area, so I'm going to make this area right here a little bit darker, like that, to create separation between the road and that space. And I should probably do it right here too. And this is where this road kind of will start to stand out a little bit more. Like this, and you can kind of, especially down here where the road ends, you can kind of come out like this. Now I'm running into this area down here, so I'm just going to create a little bit of a darker line, and then I'm going to transition it to nothing right in here where it runs in. I don't want this all dark right in here, you know, right where this goes. So see that right there where it kind of just vanishes a little bit, that line, where in theory it would, you know, it'd stay a little bit darker, but you know, we want to give this area down here some breathing space. See this right here? You go darker to lighter like that. So it's just all about transitions like that. You can do it like here. Here's the middle of the road. It's a little bit darker right there. And then down here, it gets lighter. Maybe you can do it in reverse too, I guess. I guess it could be darker down here. And I wouldn't do it with this one right here with these objects, but if you're doing this on a white piece of paper, you make it darker down here and it gets lighter up there too, you know. There's all kinds of different little tricks you can do. You can go from darker to lighter to darker, you know what I mean? Just oscillate things a little bit. Variety, you know? Spice of life. Okay, you can just kind of see it coming around a little bit now. Here's our kind of thing, our format. Okay. All right, now let's get into the green tones. I'm not even sure which one I should start off with. Should I start off? Let's go with the darker one, I think. I think like this one right here would maybe stand out a little bit. So let's kind of ease into that greenish tones. I'm going to try to get into these little greenish kind of olivey colors right here. Hello, Janet. How are you? Order the bigger fences. Yeah, they can add really good kind of framing to the piece. Linda has purple hair. And hello, Debbie. How are you? Thanks for checking out the card here. I don't think I've done a horizon card in a little while. Here, so this is a little bit of a change up for me, at least from, I don't know, the last month or something like that. Maybe it's been a couple months. Usually when I'm doing this type of folded card like that, it's usually more of the reflection cards that I find so dynamic. But these aged stationery papers with these really cool, you know, floral or whatever leaf designs on them, they just seem so perfect for like a quick, you know, relatively quick, you know, whatever application of that format here, you know, with all, you know, the foreground and the overhang already kind of taken care of and all the background tones. All right, now so going over those green, brown tones with my green like that. So see, that fence looks like it's sitting into the scene a little bit more. But yeah, the fences do. They really emphasize kind of framing. I can almost put like another one right here even, and that would be kind of cool. I'd have it on the lower section right here. So maybe not. Oh, you know what I was going to do? I forgot. I thought about going with, let me see which one it is. I was going to put this fence, this smaller fence, like behind this house in here. It would go this way though. It would be like that. It might be too late for that though. It's because I've already laid down, you know, these colored pencil, waxy applications and just, you know, stamp inks. They just, you know, they don't stamp onto that wax very well. It's a little bit resistant to it. I don't know. It's supposed to be kind of lighter in the background, though. I don't know. I already have the trees on the horizon, though. The ideas for these live streams again are just, you know, it's a loose concept. It's a loose concept when I go into them, you know, really kind of inventing a lot of it on the fly. All right, let's see here. So these green tones, again, if you just kind of joined in, I'm kind of trying to match some of the greenish tones, the spirit of the a lot of these colors that are inherently on the paper itself. So when you utilize these colors in your color scheme that you're coloring with, it kind of harmonizes with that paper, with that color scheme in there. So, and again, it's a kind of a safe way to work. I'm sure there's other things that you can do for emphasis, like I said, using contrasting colors. Like if, you know, suddenly you did something in like a bunch of warm tones or something like that, it might be kind of interesting. I don't know what colors, orange or I don't know, maybe that warm green or something like that, which I think this is going to need. See, when all those colors are like a certain way on the paper itself, and then I'm starting to bring this in. I think it's kind of looking it's looking rich in tone, but it's looking a little bit dreary. So I want to just wake this up a little bit too with contrasts. It might be contrast in terms of color and temperature, but it probably in light too, like, you know, putting some little wildflowers or something like that into the scene. I mean, it seems like it's supposed to be spring or something like that, but it's like late, you know, storm or something like that in the springtime or something like that with these colors. All right, there we go, like that. A little bit too brownish right in here. All right, that's using my darker tones. We're going to start to move into a little bit of a warmer, lighter green. This is really light in here, but it's important not to fill it all in, I find, because it just, you would lose the light. So there's some light right up in here, and I want it to, there to be some reflective light down here, okay? So we can warm these areas up a little bit like this, okay? So I'm bringing this into the darker areas, and it's just adding a little bit more of that yellowy green. Into there like that. I don't know if you can see it, but it's starting to warm up a little bit like that. It's starting to change the spirit of it a little bit, I think. It's a little bit more welcoming looking. But I'm just using this as like a, I don't know, whatever, the 5% version of it, maybe. Yeah, I think that helped it. What do you guys think? Can you see that there on your screens? If you're watching on like a really small, like a phone or something like that. I don't know if you can see that. I'll try to add a little bit more in there to get a little bit more intensity if you can't see it. But yeah, that's kind of waking it up right in there. And actually that warmth against those flowers, I think, looks pretty good. It's almost changing the time of day, it seems to me. But going back to that comment about, see this area in here, it's still light in terms of value, okay? It's warmer too, but we're retaining that lightness right in there. I mean, you can make it a little bit darker, but you want to do it kind of controlled. All right, let's see here. I mentioned this before about my instructor, one of my professors for illustration. He said the brightest colors are often in the shadows. So see, I'm kind of adding that little bit of a brighter green right there. So it's a little bit more intense like that. We can add some brighter tones. It's not super bright, but it's, you know, but in contrast, you see that? A little bit of a brightness right in the shadows right in there. It's still dark, you know, all those darker tones are there, but it's just it's a little bit of a different intensity range in here. Although it's not very intense. It just kind of looks that way a little bit because everything's in here. It's kind of, as far as the intensity spectrum, it's really dull looking. Okay, we'll bring some tone into this tree. I forgot about that tree in there. Right, like that. Let's see what this is looking like now. Okay. I'm just wondering. Let's bring in some of these. I don't know is it mauve? I forgot what that color's called, but let's bring some of this into the mix here. Okay, so it's like a lavender. What is this? Yeah, it's called lavender. I'm going to bring this into some of these spaces in here. Okay, so it's just this little pinkish tinge right in here. I don't want it to read as pink necessarily, but it could because you have this kind of these little touches of this lavender around in here. But see, for me right here, this is getting a little bit monotonous right here. So I just want to add a little bit more tone somewhere in here. So maybe this is the color of the sky and it's reflecting down in here. So I'm adding this around here. It's not to make it like, I don't want to block it off or anything like that, this light tone in here, but see this? I just added this little tinge of it because there's already some right here. So instead of just being this light road like that, you know, it's a little bit lighter and then it's a little bit darker right here within the color scheme, okay? And something like that. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to add it over here too, I think. It's like colored light hitting it or something. Like that. I don't know if you could see it there. There's a little tinge of that really super light lavender. Even at its full saturation, it's really not, you know, really dark or anything like that. Okay. Oh, let's see. Let's add some of that to that rooftop there. That brown. Now it's kind of lavender brown. That. I'm not sure what color should I do that stone fireplace. And let's bring some here. I'll just bring some of that light into it. That lavender light. And again, it's not supposed to be like a lavender fireplace or something like that. It's just, you know, when you have like a neutrally colored stone or something like that and there's like lighting from the sky, you know, cast upon it, you know, it's going to look the color of that light that's hitting it. So around sunset, it's going to be probably warm tones, you know, sunrise. And again, it maybe harmonizes a little bit with the surrounding areas. Let's go into, I usually do this with my paint pen, but let's see if we can add a little bit of warmth into those windows. Like that. I don't know if you can see it there. I added a little bit of yellow. It's not like real super hot yellow, canary yellow again, but something a little bit lighter. About like so. And see. Let's see about these tones right here. So there's some of these tones like right in here. Maybe not so much violet like that. Maybe it's more of the pink. We'll do that. You can almost put like a white moon or something like that up there. I think there was a full moon last night. If it wasn't last night, it's tonight, I think. All right. So this area in here is reasonably rich, but from a textural standpoint, it's a little bit boring, considering this whole area down here, a lot of it has kind of a similar texture. So what you do is you go in with gel pens or paint pens or something like that, and you can really bring out a little bit of contrasting textures in here. So what I do if I'm doing something like this on grasses, which I often do, just because they get a little bit muddled or muddy, with all the different colors I tend to use, is I add these little flowery types of touches. It can also represent highlights too, but if it represents flowers, what I do is I tend to cluster those little dots like this. I don't just do it, you know, all over the entire surface or area. So like that. You see, I left a little bit of space in between those little dots in there. Let's come over here. And it's also a way to add, it's adding color into certain areas. It can add lighting and textural contrast. So it can do a lot of different things for you. It kind of brings things, areas to life, to, you know, for me, especially texturally, which I really like. All right, so see, like right back up in here, like that. It's fairly subtle too, especially on here, because the paper is a matte paper, so some of this paint gets absorbed in the surface, so it's a little bit less, intense. Okay, that was that. Let's add in some. Let's see if I can add in some darker ones. It would be nice if I had kind of like a color that was kind of like wine, you know, or something like that. And I would probably integrate a little bit of those textures. This is a little bit of a different tone here. It's a little lavender. I'll just do a couple little touches within those clusters of pink. That. Oh, so here's this deciduous tree right in here with some greens on it. I'll add a few little touches on there too. By the way, these are the 3mm paint pens. Lavender Fields. That's a good one, Sharita. I've always wanted to visit actual lavender fields. You always see those photographs of, oh, where is it? It's like Provence, France, and up in Washington State, there's this squim, I think. We always see these rows of lavender, like taken at like sunset or something like that, or at like twilight, with the sky a dramatic color in these just lavender fields. I should ask my sister if she's ever checked those out. I know she's aware of it, and she's lived in Washington for a while. I wonder if they ever got around to checking that area out. All right, so adding in this little kind of sparkly little texturing like that. So it kind of brings those areas to life a little bit. All right, now that white stands out a little bit more than how it's going to look, again, when it's dry, because it keeps absorbing into the paper. All right, and I'm looking at this object right here. I'm thinking about putting like a little edge with this. I'm kind of chicken to do that because this is such a fat pen here. I think I better go conservative and do it with like the pastel pencil, which is like, the opposite not extreme, but the opposite in terms of application, kind of subtlety, ability. So right in here, see, I'm just putting a little bit of this. This is a pastel pencil again. It looks like a colored pencil, but it's pastel. I don't know. The colored pencil I don't think would even show up on here. The white colored pencil. It might, I guess, if you have one that's really super soft. I'm just kind of adding a little bit of lightness right on the top edge of it like that. Okay. There's a little bit of these rocks down here as these stones. All right. It kind of brings that out. I don't know. Subtle. And then, okay, so let's go into some of those more detailed things, but with the 0.7 millimeter. Zealous Zest, did I say hello to you? Hello? Good to see ya. Full moon tonight. Oh, it's a full moon tonight. Okay, I'm gonna go and check that out. Holland, are there lavender in Holland? I've seen though. I've definitely seen all those photos of Holland, and the Netherlands, especially. I started looking into that again. All of those fields. When I was doing that one set number, I forget what it is with the windmills and the flower field. That place is amazing. We did actually. I took this tour of Europe in '87, I think it was. It went all over the place, but just seeing all those. I don't think we went and checked out any of the flower fields. We might have. We spent some time in Amsterdam, and but then we went to this active auction house for the country, basically, where they're auctioning all of their flowers, and that building was so huge. It was like one big building too, where they had this catwalk up top, and you can look at all of the production line down below, but every I don't know what it was. it seemed like every 200 yards or something like that, there was this other auction house where you can see people get, there was these certain types of flowers that were getting auctioned. And all these, it was like, whatever, it was like Wall Street practically, but for flowers. And that was really fascinating. But that one building, though, it was so insane. It was almost more as impressive as I don't know, all these old cathedrals and things like that we saw on that tour. I always remember that building, and just looking down that catwalk. I mean, it's a really super wide catwalk. It's it's made for tourists and everything like that. But it was it was so immense, that building. And just looking at the far end of it, it looked like this tiny little, this speck of a door. And it was, when you said that, it reminded me of that. Holland. All right. So there's bringing out these little highlights like that on the fence. It kind of makes it pop out a little bit more. Here's a little bit more three-dimensional things. Here's these little effects here with the road, which are really fun to integrate into the scene. I like this overhang right here. So from a compositional side, now one of the things that you got to do is, I would kind of pre-fold the card. I'm just showing you on this one right here. It's just a pre-folded card. And then what I would do is I would probably add the sealant onto the heavier cardstock. And then when you're taking this, go from like the middle, that's what I do, and I stick that in there, okay? So the edge is just sticking to the adhesive. I would use a spray adhesive too, probably, on a full-size piece like this. And then what you do is you just you lay it down from center out like that, and then you go like this, and you go up. If you try to lay it down like this way, across the way, I don't know, maybe you can do it that way, and maybe you can fold afterwards. I don't know what the easiest way is, but that's the way I usually do it, because sometimes if you try to do it from here over, by the time you get it from here over there, left to right or top to bottom, there might be skewed, where it's like off center a little bit like that. So I find it easier just to butt it in there like that and to lay it down like that, okay, from center out. And again, you won't get this like this bubble in there. That's if you're using like a spray adhesive. And again, I think the spray adhesive is the way to go for, such a large piece, because when I use a tape gun like this on something like this on here, and then I tape it to the interior of a card, inevitably it feels kind of floppy on there. It might feel nice and flat, but I don't know, when I check it later, I don't know, at some point in time, it always feels like it's ridged in there, where you can feel where the the tape has been laid down. I know you guys might have some other kind of techniques, than I do, but for something like that. But that's what I do. And for a spray adhesive, I use a 3M, like Super 77 there. Oh, supermoon here in Australia, beautiful and orange. That's interesting, because the moon looked different here too to me, like even the past couple days. So that's interesting. What is the supermoon? The supermoon, I've heard that term before. It's where it appears larger, right? And what is it? It's orange, more like when it's on the horizon or something like that, or lower, closer to the horizon. Hello, Megan, how are you? Oh, yeah. So yeah, Megan, I guess I think you notification, and make sure something didn't change in your system preferences for notifications too, I think that's what someone said before. They had clicked on the bell or something like that, and I don't know if they were getting notifications and then they weren't later. Linda, didn't you say something about that? You weren't getting notifications or something like that, did you? Or was that someone else? I think a couple people. But I think I thought it had something to do with their system preferences, or clicking on that or setting that up. So sometimes maybe if there's like a system preference or system update or something like that, maybe that, I don't know, changed or something like that. Okay, so right here, see where this little ridge here kind of loops around like that? This is supposed to be like in front of this area right in here. So what I do to emphasize that, so we have it a little bit darker around the edge here for this road, but what I also do right here is I mask this off. And this is the little trick that I do here. So I'll bring in some of this white pigment ink right here, and I'll add this behind it like that. Okay, and I don't want like a big blob, so I'm trying to make it look like this rising mist, coming up from that, whatever, beyond that, like shallow slope right there. If you're getting blobs, just, kind of blot some of it off and, just kind of wipe it off. You can remove it still. Maybe not 100%, but you can remove most of it. So see like that, I'm putting that little cloud or little thing of mist right behind there. So it really brings out this from the background like that. So you create a little bit of separation like that. And see, I'm tapping this like on that paper towel too. So it's not like I'm not just tapping it up here, I'm tapping it down here. And then once I get some of that down there, the more taps you do, the more ink you're transferring. And then I kind of come up here a little bit more so that it looks like it's kind of dissipating a little bit. My pad here is really dry. So I'm going like that, and then I'm going up here a little bit and tapping with a lighter touch. And again, so it kind of just dissipates a little bit like that. All right. Maybe I'm being too conservative. I need to put a little bit more here, but I'm usually kind of a little bit more conservative with paper that I haven't been working on for very long. So I'm not quite sure how fast this is going to transfer on there. All right, so see that right in there. So see that it creates a little bit of separation. Again, here's the that slope right there. And then I like to do this too. I don't have very much space to work in here, but I like to put a little bit of this at the base of my trees too. So I'm going to try to leave a little bit of this darkness right in here. It's going to be this really narrow little band in here of slightly darker tone right in there, but I do like this at the base of these trees, tree trunks. Like that. See, it looks a little bit more dreamy like that to me. But again, I don't want this to fill up this whole area right in here. I need a little bit of contrast in here between this edge of this slope right here and the cloud in the background. All right. All right, let's bring this into other areas as well, so it's a little bit more integrated. This. When you have a little bit of space in between a couple trees, you can kind of put it in between the trees like this. It could be tree trunks too. There's a little bit of space in between that tree and that cabin, so you can put a little bit right here. But again, I'm trying not to go across like everything. And again, it's so you can play contrasts against one another. So you can checkerboard your tone, okay? So see this cabin right here, and we have this tree right here. But the tree is a little bit higher, so it represents a tree that's a little bit more distant than that. You can put a little of this down here, like that. And there, it kind of pushes that tree back in the distance a little bit. It's a little bit more distant, and it brings this cabin a little bit more forward like that. We were talking about these fences right here, how they can kind of frame things off. I like to change a little bit of the... I like to tweak the... whatever, the value of some of the fence areas. So sometimes, you know, you make it a little bit more softer and lighter there, where it's a little bit darker right there, and it's moving around into the mist. So yeah, it's a little bit more of like a dreamier light in here. See, like this. Let's see what it's looking like right here. That. Okay. Like that. So, well, you know, when people open this up like this, it has like a little bit of a pop-up feel. You can see this like fence rising like that. It looks like it's like kind of popping up a little bit, but you're not. It's really not. It's just, you know, it's just the format of the card again. So let's see. So we have this mist like at the end of the bend right there. Let's bring a little bit right in here too. And where this kind of, where I was coloring this right in here, and it's going from a little bit of a darker brown to a lighter, you know, to no brown, because I didn't want to run into this foliage right here. Let's just kind of go with that same type of whatever convention, darker to lighter down here, and we'll make this even lighter right here. But see, here's this little flower right here. You can bring in some of that lighting onto that leaf petal right here, so you've suddenly introduced this softer light into the stationery paper too. So now, I mean, the lighting from above is kind of influencing, you know, the objects that it's hitting now a little bit. But see this right here, if you kind of added over some of it, you know, like half of this flower right here and not right here, you're kind of playing those contrasts against one another. And see, it's kind of lightening this area up a little bit. You like those flowers, Megan? Aren't they fun? I think they're really nice, and they add a nice graphic touch, but they're also like painted. So it's like adding that really nice painterly fluid look into a stamped scene. So I'm always trying to make these things look kind of real, kind of fluid and organic and flowing and everything like that. But you know, like watercolor painting or something like, I don't know how they did these, you know, the original artwork of this, but it's really kind of taken advantage of someone that really knows how to paint and incorporating that into our pieces right here. Yeah, and we don't have to, you know, like do that either. Let's see. Remember, I was talking about oscillating. You can go from like lighter tones, darker tones, lighter tones, or something like that. Here, I'll do this right here. So I've added a little bit of this mist right here. So it's going from light to dark to light. And you can play around with that all, you know, everywhere. And again, it's like this concept called like checkerboarding. You can do that with values. You can go dark, light, dark, you know, soft, crisp, softer, or something like that. All right, now let's see. I'm still thinking about like a little deer or something like that. They would be probably right here. Let me see. Something kind of facing in this way would be nice too. But oh, okay, so we have that right there. Something could go on up in the sky too. Or it would be kind of interesting to stamp some sort of quote stamp up here, but to do it in like a maroon tone up there. Maybe I don't know. I think the quote stamp would have been up here, if anything. I don't think I want to go with something like that in there. Oh, or there's some lighting in here like this. Dare I do that? I'm thinking about like some light beams kind of coming in here and making that kind of like the light source, like a break in the clouds like that. And you have some light beams running in here. Anyone have any opinion on that? Do I have a second? I don't know. It looks pretty cool this way too. I'm trying to think if that would add to it. It might be kind of interesting. Look at this right here. It's like different the way I hold this right here. It's like the light is hitting it different. If I go like this, then the light is hitting up here and this looks darker. It looks like, yeah. This paper would allow for some tone in there though. And that light would be coming from right back in there. I could do it really subtle, or would that be too much? I don't know. This one might be, I might have to think about that one. All right, but yeah, I'm trying to think of some other visual thing in here. Right now we have this, the cabin. I might want, like I said, a second object in here. The dough would be good, but I'd want it like facing the other way, I think. Am I overthinking this? Some birds up in the sky too would be kind of interesting. Just like some migrating birds, I think, in the background. Yeah. All right. I got to think about this one. But as far as this paper goes, I think it's perfect for these Horizon card formats like this. This latest pack, I mean, it could be done, you know, it could be done with the autumn pack too, certainly. Well, let me take a look at some of those again. Oh, where did those papers go? Yeah, like this. I don't know. These autumn ones, I mean, these foliage ones are a little bit different. This one right here, I'd do this way. I would have this as a, you know, this is like perfect for a water, you know, so you go slimline horizon card like this. This is like an awesome little pond in here. I'd put like the Bayou Shacker in here or the lakeside cabin in here in the background or something like that. Any of those. This one right here, I was looking at this one and I was trying to think of, would I have this as the lower section and this is the upper with this huge overhang? Or would that be coming in from the bottom section like that, looking up? I think it could work both ways. And this right here, I like the, the caddy corner type of formatting on these for these Horizon cards. I think I would use these more for that than like a quarter page card. I have to try some quarter pages out with these too. But this one in these pinkish mauve tones would be really fun. So I think there's all kinds of different possibilities with these going forward in terms of the different color schemes. I really love the autumn ones too, of course. And with these ones right here in this foliage pack, Aged Foliage, This one, there's a couple that would pair really well with the gold, but these other ones that are a little bit more temperature-less, I'd probably pair them up with my silver cardstock for, you know, like reflection cards like that. I think the silver would be a really good choice on those. It's too bad that we didn't have some, like, years ago, maybe there was like, oops, sorry. Years ago, there were so many different choices for papers. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of pinkish tinged, reflective mirrored cardstock, or just different colored cards, reflect mirrored style metallics. I don't know, whatever, 20 years ago or something like that, when there were a lot more manufacturers for papers out there. But these days, I don't know, we're a little bit more limited in terms of the types of papers. Certain types of papers like these ones, like these, probably more. But in terms of the heavier cardstocks, the cardstocks that were used for like book productions and things like that, posters, probably a little bit less. So it makes these thinner style ones, I don't know, something to think about in terms of your stamping needs. All right. Yeah, glad you like it, Cynthia. I thought, yeah, with these ones right here. So Cynthia says that paper looks like it was made for, that scene. So when I look at these papers, though, especially after having a little bit of practice with the Aged Autumn ones, I don't know. For me, when I started looking at these yesterday, I opened this pack for the first time yesterday. It's like a lot of different scenes were kind of scenarios, at least, were coming to mind, and I just couldn't wait to try some of them out. So, yeah, to me they're really evocative, in terms of now that I know a little bit more of how kind of a certain way to use these is. So yeah, that was the same thing for me too. I totally saw like a little cabin like underneath this area in here, and that being perfect for it. It would be perfect for so many things too, I think. I want to do those. I want to use these reflection cards too. Just, I mean, yeah. Well, it would be like a horizon card, but I want to do this. Use the paper though, the printed paper as the water area, and not use like a mirrored cardstock for that. And I think that would be really fun. And these papers seem to allow for it too. The autumn ones, some of those autumn ones, the imagery really takes up a huge amount of space. And I think in this aged foliage, it doesn't fill up the space quite as much as those other ones. So, yeah, there might be a little bit more of open for, I don't know, whatever possibilities. But on the other hand, the aged autumn ones, they fill up more space, so you don't have to do as much stuff for a complete card, I guess, maybe. That's the trade-off in there. All right. I had to go into my settings and find the notifications. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So that might be it there in terms of the notifications, Megan. Make sure that, yeah, make sure that your notifications button is selected. And I don't know, with different types of setting systems, there might be a notification for the specific app too. I don't know. Closest to Earth, make it appear larger, okay, and brighter. That's the thing. Like last night, it was like so light outside, and yeah, like I couldn't tell. I said, well, it's either a full moon tonight, last night, or we're one day off. So it's I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what it is. So in the U.S., I don't know. Would the full moon still be tonight? I don't know. I don't know these things. All right. Yeah, Linda, I can't wait to see what you do with them, and especially your full page scenes too. Incorporating all those kind of pre-existing, elements, and with your large pieces should be really cool. Do they crack when you crease them? Are you talking about the papers right here? No, these papers right here, they're letter thin, you know. It's not copy paper. These ones right here are a little bit thicker, but they're a good, you know, heavier letter weight though. So it's not cover weight, materials here. These are stationary papers, so they're nice and thin. If that's what you're asking about there. So yeah, you can do all kinds of things. They're real easy to work with in terms of any types of folds like that. So yeah. All right, folks. I'm probably not going to add those light beams in there, but I won't want to do another one that does. I'll plan for some of that in there. I still might want to add one object in this, but I'm not quite sure. Like something in this open area right here, you know, maybe where it's not something that's so tall. So again, if you just joined in, here's the this kind of horizon card format. That's, I don't know, for lack of a better term for this type of paper right here. It's just where you're using kind of this upper section here for more of your vertical types of objects, trees, fence, and like this cabin right here. Now there are these in here already, but you know, generally the objects down here are the flatter ones, you know, a little bit of grass, road like that. And the taller objects, like from, I don't know, whatever, 4 feet and up, are stamped into the vertical section like that. So, and again, nicely framed off by these pre-printed papers, thanks to that company for doing those types of papers, and whoever the designers were, artists were, that they utilized for these pieces like here. I think it makes for a good collaboration. All right. Go see the moon tonight. Unless it's all clouded over or something like that. We might be able to get a good large moon showing. Hope to see you in the next live, everyone. Thanks again.